It's Ryan Herrings of Locked On Badgers. Hey, what's up? It's Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans. And yes, we are combining forces to break down this Saturday's game between two teams that could really use some good news here. But before we get to any of that, hey, really quick, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. It's BetOnline where the game starts. Ryan, how are things in your neck of the woods going, man? We doing okay over there?
Yeah, I mean, we did fire a coach. We're a 500 team, picked to win the West again this year, and that is going downhill. You know, it's funny because we were talking off air really quick, and we were just kind of because it's been a rough stretch, right, for both of our programs here. Yeah, a little bit, but you remember when it was good, right? Like we had this great rivalry going. You were beating us in a Hail Mary, which, by the way, we're not going to make this show about the past, but I do have to mention the Hail Mary game where y'all beat us is one of my most devastating fan losses in the history of my life.
Perfect. Awesome.
It hurt me to the core. But then we beat you in the Big Ten title game. You had Kirk Cousins. We had Russell Wilson. Like, it was so much fun. What happened to us?
You know what? To play a little dejection tennis here. You were really beat up after that loss. That loss in the Big Ten championship game was the saddest I've ever been and ever will be. It even triumphs like losing to Middle Tennessee State. It triumphs any loss to Michigan we've ever had. Like I cried around my girlfriend's parents that night. Now she is my wife and they're my in-laws. So they really saw the true colors that day. But yeah, we're starting this episode on a hot note here. Look at us go, just talking about the great times that we've had. But yeah, you know what? I do come in peace. I am wearing my 2015 Final Four shirt. So this is as much of a peace offering as I can give the Badger fans right here. But also reminiscing on the good days as well, no matter what sport it may be. Brian, here's a situation going into this weekend. Saturday, 4 p.m., Badgers at Spartans. A few months ago, the storylines here, amazing. Paul Chryst charging into East Lansing with his Badgers, looking to keep pace as leaders of the Big Ten West, fast-tracking their way to Indianapolis. And my Michigan State Spartans, most likely coming off of their first loss of the season to Ohio State. Let's even call it the second loss of the season. Vibes are still pretty good over here in East Lansing. So we can just go ahead and rip that script clean in half.
Yeah, agreed.
What's going on now? 3-3 Badgers. You are sans Paul Chryst. My Spartans are riding a 4-game losing streak over Madison. Okay, what's the storyline now for this game for you guys? What do we got here?
Yeah, I got to be honest. Like, there was a sizable portion of Badger fans that were frustrated with Paul Chryst and getting to the point of, I don't want to say checking out, but kind of quasi checking out. So there's actually... the Badgers right now have a lot of new coach energy, for better or worse, right? Like there is a lot of optimism riding on Jim Leonhard, who for a long time has been considered like the dude in waiting. Like you can't name coaches in waiting anymore, but Badger fans have for a long time worried about losing Jim Leonhard to another job. So now it's kind of his opportunity to have the job. And the real big storyline here is if he seizes it, like and that doesn't mean winning 5 games down the stretch necessarily. This is still a very flawed Wisconsin Badgers team. But if Wisconsin looks a lot better and step one is done, they went into Evanston and beat a bad Wildcats team, but they beat them down 42-7, right? So if Jim Leonhard continues building on this, it's his job. And that's really where Badger fans are tuned into now is, do we see the continued improvement? Does the team play a little more disciplined? And that's a big storyline. And that's definitely a reason Badger fans are checking in. So from our perspective, it's probably a little different from a Michigan State fan's perspective, but there's a lot actually riding on this now and a lot of optimism and kind of good feelings going into this game in East Lansing. I am curious from a Badgers fan's perspective, obviously Mel Tucker last year was an incredible season. He's
totally
really, really well-spoken, tons of energy. It feels like he's rejuvenated in a lot of ways, East Lansing and that program, the fan base rallies around him. However, 4 straight losses. Like what is the kind of mood there?
Well, 4 straight losses doesn't even tell the story. These are 4 straight losses that, for the most part, have not even been competitive either. The first loss, Washington, okay, game's over at halftime. You get boat raced against Minnesota at home. That's where we start to lose cabin pressure. Maryland, okay, we were kind of in that game until the second half rolled around, and then, Ohio State is an NFL team, so that happened. So, look, short-term vibes are absolutely horrendous right now. I still think that it will be a buzzing atmosphere at Spartan Stadium this weekend because it is homecoming. So that's going to bring the fans together. Of course, you get a marquee matchup like Wisconsin. And also, this could be the last breath of air that Michigan State could possibly have this season. You lose this game, Oh boy, we're going to see how many people show up to the Indiana game and Rutgers game at the end of the year. So this might be the last best game to go to for Spartan fans, which could add to the atmosphere here. Now, long term, I don't want to rant about it. I don't know how much Badger fans care about it, but I do like Mel Tucker still long term. And I think, the majority of Michigan State fans still feel that way because, well, how do you dig yourself out of this hole? It's recruiting. How do you recruit off of a season that might not even end in a bowl game? Well, that's the $95 million question, and that's why you pay Mel Tucker the big bucks to get Michigan State out of this hole that they're already in. Now, that's not to say that he's completely absolved from all the coaching faults this year and everything like that, but yeah, it is a talent disparity so far this season, and we'll see if we can rally behind the home crowd this Saturday to just try to get some momentum because we are running out of games here to claim bowl eligibility. We're 2-4. We need 4 wins. And the only 4 games I can see as wins are, well, this weekend, even though we're 7-point underdogs here. And then we got to go to Illinois. And that's after going to Michigan, Will. They're going to try to lay the hammer on you because they don't like Mel Tucker beating you 2 years in a row. And then you got Indiana, then you got Rutgers. So, yeah, you got to win these 4 games of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Rutgers to hopefully stumble into the Quick Lane Bowl or Duke's Mayo Bowl. So, that's the big storyline for Michigan State here is bowl eligibility still going to be on the table after this weekend?
Well, that Illinois game is suddenly a pretty tricky contest in the Big Ten.
Big time.
Bielema's really got them firing. I want to pivot to recruiting here for a second because there is a big storyline on the Badger side, and I've been waiting all week to ask you this question because I'm really interested in your take on this. Obviously, Saeed Khalif, the Michigan State recruiting director, left Madison. He started off in Madison under Paul Christ. When Saeed left, I don't want to say he burned bridges, but he did make it very clear that he's going to Michigan State because they provide me with better resources, more people. I can better do my job under Mel Tucker. And then we've seen Michigan State's recruiting very, very strongly take an uptick.
Yeah.
And conversely, we've seen Wisconsin, for Michigan State fans who may not know, the last 2 classes at Wisconsin have been very, very poor, very mediocre, would be putting it kindly. How big of an impact is Saeed Khalif actually? Because there is a contingent of fans who argue that the recruiting department isn't the biggest deal, and people are going to Michigan State because Mel Tucker has new coach energy, because he's incredibly well spoken, because they have a lot of money. I'm curious, where's the breakdown there?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of cocktail of both. Obviously Mel Tucker, great marketer. He's from Georgia, from Alabama. He knows all the ins and outs about how to build a program and, have yourself perceived as one of the top programs in the country as well. But you need a strong right-hand man to do that, right? And I think that's where Saeed Khalif comes in. And Michigan State fans, look, we're enjoying the recruiting season right now, which is something that we've never been able to say really before Mel Tucker stepped in. There's an emphasis now on recruiting, and I think Khalif has to be a big part of that, right? Because he was known, even at Wisconsin, for being the relationship guy. Obviously, hey, you want to sell early playing time. You want to sell the brand. You want to sell NFL prospects. But also, too, there's a family aspect that comes to committing to a team. So you see Michigan State right now, after a recent decommit, still sitting at 13 commits for next year's class, 9 4-stars, though. And that's going to be tied for the best right now if everything stops. And there's still, some time to go before National Signing Day. So, yeah, you get that on one hand, but also, too, just like you mentioned, Wisconsin, when he left, kind of fell off. So we really are seeing, okay, what a good recruiting department does for a team like Michigan State, a team trying to build up. But also, too, yeah, if you do look on the other side of the fence, teams that aren't putting that big emphasis on recruiting or trying to fill a big hole, I mean, that's another great exhibit B of how important recruiting is. So, yeah, we're taking lessons just looking at ourselves, but also if you look around them. It's hard to say that Khalif isn't making an impact, and maybe it's an even bigger one than a lot of fans, maybe myself included, even realize now. So, yeah, that's right. It's a fascinating thing, though, right? Because Wisconsin and Michigan State maybe just from the outside seems like a lateral move, but that is a bold statement he made by saying, oh, no, they're actually going to give me stuff that I want, and you're not. So, I don't know. It's almost like Michigan State is saying to the world that we're going to make this hurdle. We're going to be one of the big boys and not be a middle tier. So it's just a fascinating power play of politics and all that stuff. I mean, it's nuts.
Well, Michigan State definitely makes a commitment financially to the athletic department that I think a lot of Badger fans honestly are enviable of. Now, I would say at times, bang for the buck matters, right? There's plenty of examples of programs who throw money around and don't get results.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just money, but
right.
Saeed definitely left for better opportunities in his mind, in his opinion, and we've seen the results at Michigan State. And like you said, it's probably a cocktail of a lot of things. When you hear Mel Tucker talk, and I'm a Wisconsin fan, I'm not a Mel Tucker guy, but
Yeah.
I would run through a wall for Mel Tucker. Like when you hear him talk, he inspires a crowd, he inspires a room. So
yeah.
Certainly that's a part of recruiting, right? When the head man and Paul Chryst, for all of his pros, Paul Chryst did a lot of great things at Madison. He doesn't have that same type of, I would say, aura,
bravado,
bravado that Mel Tucker has. So I think that certainly plays a part in recruiting as well.
Yeah, marketing is marketing, and look, that's how you got to get yourself back to the top. Here is even if you're not a top program, even if you are 2-4 this season, you gotta be the world's greatest salesman, and you can't do that without the utmost confidence. And I think that's what Mel Tucker Company has right now. And look, I mean, that's all we have to hang our hats on right now, because we know that this season isn't necessarily going to be a full winning season again. So look, we're all just circling December 21st on our calendar because that's National Signing Day. And if they can keep this class intact, okay, we mitigated the damage of what this season has done. So there you have it. Ryan, what do you say we talk about the game, talk about each other's teams? I'll ask you about your team, or you ask me about my team. Let's see how this nuts out here after this short little break, shall we?
Love it. Let's keep going.
Let's do it. Why not? But first, got to talk to people's ear off about Bet Online. Ryan, we are looking at Wisconsin -7 on the road at Spartan Stadium. Do you have an early read on this game right now?
Yeah, the line. I think Wisconsin's going to win, but I am taking Michigan State to cover. Going on the road is always tough, as you mentioned. Homecoming. Sure. It's a big desperation play for Michigan State in this game. They're going to have to come out and start early. I would say the other thing too, really quick on this game with the Bet Online. Wisconsin caught Northwestern with some looks that they hadn't had before. Michigan State's going to have them on tape, and I think they're going to be a little bit better prepared for the new offense that Wisconsin's been running.
Well, I'm going to take Michigan State +7 too, just because, look, we can't lose every single game by double digits, right? Like, something's got to give. We got to lose one of these games just by a touchdown or less. So when I make that wager, I'm going to do it at betonline.net, because they are the number one source for football betting this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf, is at BetOnline. What are you waiting for? Head to betonline.net, use your mobile device, learn more about the trends and action. That is at BetOnline, where the game starts. And before we kick off the second segment, hey, Badger fans, Spartan fans, thanks a lot for giving us a listen every single day. Ryan Herring's doing great work over there at Locked On Badgers. I'm just trying my best over at Locked On Spartans, so there we have it. Do we do rock, paper, scissors for who talks about whose team first? How do you want to do this? You just cut out. I could not hear you. Oh, this is a great start to the segment.
No, it's good. It's awesome. Good. We're back.
Okay, we're back.
Start off. Yeah,
we're thriving. You know what? I gotta say,
much like our seasons this year, by the way. Interruptions, mistakes, miscues, technical difficulties. Can we just call this season technical difficulties? Like, can we do that?
I'm happy we made it out of the first quarter of the podcast before they started happening, though. Right. That's a nice little twist on our season over here. I gotta say, my ears perked up when you said new offense. So this is a lazy question. Hey, elaborate on what you mean by that, because we all know Wisconsin is just the ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound. Okay, a little 5-yard out route, ground and pound. What's going on with the Badgers offense this year that we could expect this Saturday?
So you probably see me visually perk up a little bit here. I'm so excited for this. This has been one of the greatest developments of the last week of my life, right? Which is a low bar. But so for the longest time, Paul Chryst has run the offense essentially. Like, we've had offensive coordinators, but it's really been in the image of what Paul Chryst wants to do. 2 tight ends, fullback. And it's the last couple of years has gotten really stale, running into 8-9-man boxes and just hoping that eventually you're going to break through that wall. Okay. Well, Paul Chryst, obviously, we talked about it, is gone. Bobby Ingram, the new offensive coordinator that he brought in this season, last week was really his first week where it was just him. And we, as Badger fans, we don't know what the actual mix was prior to that, how much of it was Paul Chryst and Bobby Ingram. There was some type of mix there. Mm-hmm. But last week, in Bobby Ingram's first real opportunity, it's just himself calling the offense, we saw a bunch of RPO action, which we hadn't seen previously, 5 or 6 times, putting Mertz in the gun, throwing on first down, which again, I'm saying like
Oh,
these are really simple things, but for a Badger,
wow.
like for
I get it. I
like
get it.
low hanging fruit, right? Really low
Yeah.
hanging fruit, but
Yeah.
first down play action, first down in the gun with Mertz, 2nd and 4, in the gun
Yeah.
with Mertz running out of the shotgun. There were some instances 1st and goal they went 5 wide and through in the second quarter, third quarter with Mertz,
Wisconsin? Oh,
Wisconsin.
man. Wow.
So yeah,
Look
the
at you.
minds are like exploding. And there's still a lot of we're going to hand it off to Braylon Allen. We have a fullback because you're
Yeah.
not going to change the playbook in the middle of the season. But what we did see, and I did a whole show on this, what we did see is different sequencing, right? And that's maybe the biggest issue with Wisconsin. It's been run, pass, run,
Mhm.
pass, third down
Yep.
pass. And now we started to see first down pass, 2nd and 4 run. So the sequencing's been different, and adding some RPO action, putting Mertz in the gun earlier, got him a lot more comfortable. So we're going to see it. I think it's going to continue to evolve a little bit, right? I think Ingram's going to continue to evolve that a
Mhm.
little bit. And that's really what is interesting for Badger fans to see where this offense can kind of continue growing.
And you know what? I got to say, 2 years ago, or no, before last season, liquidated my entire 401k, all my assets, sold my car, and I put all my money in Graham Mertz stock. No,
Okay.
no one was a bigger fan of Graham Mertz than me. Not even his own family members love Graham Mertz the way I love Graham Mertz. The stock kind of plummeted a little bit last year. Where are we at now with the Graham Mertz experiment? Has he gone back up a little bit? Is he still what he was last year? Or talk to me about Graham Mertz and what's been going on with him.
Yeah. The funniest thing with Graham Mertz, man, is if you were to tell a Badger fan, Paul Chris got fired this year. The team's 3-3. It's massively underperformed up to this point.
Right.
And Graham Mertz has been maybe the best player on offense.
Wow. Yeah.
None of it makes
Something.
sense.
Right.
My buddy Justin Jolko, friend of the show, sent me a text. He said, "Hey, guess who's second in the conference in passing touchdowns right now? It's Graham Mertz. Mertz is 13, which I didn't know. So what Mertz has been able to do is he's actually been really good this year, and it's really the pieces around him, the ecosystem around him, that's kind of failed him. And I think you should hold on to the Mertz stock. Not that it's fully rebounded from right where it was, the thing
Gotcha.
that people kind of forget about with Graham Mertz is he's been in a broken ecosystem for basically his entire career. And that's not to put all that on Paul Chris. He's had a different offensive coordinator every single season. His receiver core really hasn't been the greatest. Pass protection last year was pretty bad. A lot of that's starting to get fixed. The Badgers receiving core is about as good as they've had in a while. They have a lot of young weapons that people aren't familiar with, mostly because we've been such a ground and pound team. The pass
Right.
protection's been better. And now, just last week, we're starting to see Bobby Ingram put Mertz in situations, again, sans Paul Christ, where he's able to make some throws in his comfort zone. Like in high school, if you go back to the Mertz film, he was a shotgun guy, an RPO guy, spread the field, throw it down, like just let it rip. And we started to see a little bit of that against Northwestern with the Braylon Allen power running. So I would hold on to the Mertz stock, although clearly from where it was to where it is now, yeah, you've lost some value there, unfortunately. Listen, Jock and Doe guy has multiple Graham Mertz autographed rookie cards. I'm right there with you.
Hey, let's go. Nice.
We're gonna ride this wave together. So I would hold
Love
on to it. He's looked really good this year, especially considering what the expectations were.
Look at us, diamond hands. We're not letting go of this stock. We're in it to the end,
Right.
baby. Let's go.
Right. I love it.
One more question about the offense is: look, when I hear Wisconsin football, I think of two things. I think of jump around, and I think of just elite offensive line play, just world-class offensive line play. How has the offensive line been this year, though? Is it that classic Wisconsin, you could trust us to get you down the field with the run and protect you in the pass, or is it not just up to snuff of what you guys usually expect?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the offseason, the Badgers, so the last couple of years, the Badgers offensive line hasn't played up to those standards, right? They've been fine, but they haven't been that bulldozing group. In the
Sure.
offseason, they let Joe Rudolph, who was the offensive line coach, go. He went out to Virginia Tech, and they brought in Bob Bosted, who is a legendary at Wisconsin offensive line coach. And a lot of people expected an immediate turnaround because Bob Bosted has churned out the best offensive lines in recent Wisconsin history were with Bob Bosted manning that position. And there's also an abundance of young talent. Wisconsin has, I believe it's 8 4 or 5-star offensive linemen on the roster right now from their recruiting, including multiple 5-star tackles. And for whatever reason, the offensive line really still hasn't played up to the consistent level.
Gotcha.
And it's been hard to figure out. The pass pro has actually been better, in my opinion, than the run protection. They have a really good left tackle, Jeff Nelson, who had to miss a couple games. Unfortunately, he missed it the night game against Columbus, which certainly didn't help. They were down both their starting tackles in Columbus. So,
Ouch.
yeah, I mean, listen, not that really is going to change the equation. Columbus
but still,
absolutely, but still, it doesn't help.
From
right?
a health standpoint of your quarterback, like that sucks. Yeah, just
it did not help.
Yeah.
But the pass protection's been pretty good. It's really been the run game where we've struggled getting the consistent push that we used to. Where Wisconsin used to be able to run against 8 or 9 man boxes, it really didn't matter. And now we just haven't been able to do that.
Totally. And you know what, really quick before you throw me in the hot seat here, I just have one question about the defense because, look, I point blank, and I'm sorry for being so negative, State fans, but like we need any help we can get in the passing game. It's been mediocre at best the last 4 games. The run game, we just left that at the Akron game. Like that's been absolutely nowhere. So, hey, point blank, Ryan, give us Spartan fans some good news here. What are we most likely to succeed in when we have the ball in offense? Or are we better off trying to run the thing against you guys? Or should we be airing this thing out? Or none of the above, I guess. I don't know. I'm so helpless with the offense.
No, you're good. Listen, I guess I'm like your support.
I'm not good. First of all, I'm not good.
You're good.
I'm not good.
We're gonna be okay here. We're mediocre together at least. I would say the defense is interesting this year. They brought in a bunch of transfers to shore up the secondary, and they think they can get their number 1 cornerback, Alexander Smith, who's been out all year, back from Michigan State. So that should help the pass defense a little bit. I guess that's not helping your original question. The run defense really hasn't been as solid as it's been. They've had issues both against Illinois, Ohio State. Well, Ohio State's Ohio State, but even Northwestern was able to break a couple runs. The rushing defense coming off last year when they were almost historically good has taken a big step down. The 2 inside linebackers are replacing 2 NFL guys. It hasn't been as plug and play as it's been in Madison in the past. So I think there is some success in the rushing game to be had. The passing defense has gotten better, but the pass rush hasn't been as strong as it's been in recent years. In recent years, you've had multiple Wisconsin linebackers really be a threat. Last year was Chanel, Sanborn, and Herbig. Really this year, only Herbig has been able to get home consistently. So I think from a pass protection standpoint, you're going to be in a better spot for the Michigan State passing game. And then the rushing defense for Wisconsin hasn't been as great either. They were replacing a lot of guys. So, it's not the Wisconsin defense of the last couple of years for sure. Solid unit, but not outstanding.
We'll take it. All right. Okay. You know what? I'm going to take MSU team total over then. That was another, which is probably 15.5. I don't really know what it is, but like, yeah.
I think the over is 47.5 on this game with BetOnline.
I think I'll take the under, but we'll see. You know what? We're going to crunch the numbers here in a little bit. My crunchy numbers, I mean, just put 2 numbers in a hat and draw one out. That's what we got here.
I love it.
All right. Is it time to throw me on the grill and just absolutely incinerate me with questions? Let's go. Showtime. Let's get it done, Ryan.
We got questions. Let's get answers from the Michigan State guy. The first one, listen, we got to start here because it was a big storyline for Wisconsin. Jalen Berger transferring to Michigan State, a player that came into Wisconsin with a lot of recruiting fanfare. Sure. Where has he been at this year? Has he lived up to the expectations? Obviously, he had to replace Kenneth Walker, but
and no one's going to do that, right? Like, no one's going to fill those shoes. But yeah, we got 2 transfer running backs in the portal during the offseason. One, hey, Jalen Berger, just like you said, 4-star kid, runs with a lot of power, a lot of speed. And then the other guy from Colorado, his name's Brassard, former Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. Whoa, boy, has there been a lot to be desired from those 2. More so Jarek than Berger. Like, look, I'll be short. Berger's been fine. He's been okay. The offensive line is not helping with the lack of holes that they are opening. And even the small times where the holes are open, like Berger's not even hitting them as much as he should. So at the end of the day, like he's been just about the epitome of average as you could hope for, which probably is making Badger fans smile. Like, oh, hey, okay, we didn't lose out on much. But yeah, so far, it's not been good. What also hurts Michigan State's run game too is that, well, the last 4 games, you've been behind in the second half a lot of the time. So we ain't even running the ball in the second half as much as you would hope to because we're just trying to play catch up. So no, Berger's unfortunately hasn't been a big factor the last 4 games here, but yeah. So that's unfortunately as nice as I can be about that answer surrounding Jalen Berger in our run game. It's not good, Ryan. It's not good. It's not good.
And let's stay running game though, because I did have and obviously seeing the scores, right? You can tell the game script has gotten away from Michigan State a little bit, but still 3 of the last 4 games under 50 yards rushing, I believe I saw. Is there a tendency? I don't know the right way to ask this question, but have is it almost like Michigan State has folded a little bit in these games? Like, because the Michigan State, again, that culture that was always there was, Spartan dogs was always a thing. They just were tougher than anybody else.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and that just speaks more to the run game. That's the whole broad standpoint too, is like, look, and I could even make this about the defense as well, is that these games are out of reach very quickly. Like Washington went into the halftime locker room down, I think it was like 29-8 or something like that. Like the defense is unfortunately continued their tendencies of last year, which is let any quarterback you play against get some great like draft film out there for the upcoming NFL draft. The secondary is just getting absolutely positively sliced up. And look, I hate to talk about injuries because it always sounds like an excuse. But when you have Xavier Henderson, Jacob Slade, Darius Snow, Chris Bogle, Jeff Petrowski out, I just named 5 starters, right? Mm-hmm. And 4 of those aren't even in the secondary. Like 4 of those are part of your front 6 or front 7 unit. Like, I hate to use it as an excuse, but at what point does the injury list just become a reason why the defense is also kind of getting battered? Like last week against Ohio State, like, oh, hey, we got the young guys out there. Okay, they're going to get beat up pretty early against future NFL talent. So, like, our depth just wears away very quickly. It's a great combination of both, is that our depth up front on defense is wearing away quickly, and our secondary is unfortunately just our secondary. And so, yeah, this is why we get down so early, and then the offense just hasn't gotten off the starting blocks to either start games. Turnover immediately last week. The Minnesota game, going in the locker room with 0 points. It's just... when things are this bad, everything is not working out, unfortunately. I'm sorry if that's a bad answer, that, hey, no, it's just everything is not good. But yeah, like, look, you can look at any facet of the game for Michigan State, it just hasn't been good, whether it's defense or offense. So, yeah, that's...
Is there a deal on Tucker as an in-game coach, adjustment-wise, coming out of halftime? Because obviously he checks a lot of the energy recruiting boxes.
He does.
How is he from the X's and O's spot?
That's the another big conversation. I was going to say the biggest conversation, but there's like 4 big conversations going around about Michigan State. And right now, like, the defense up and down is talking about the scheme. Like, this is the second year in a row where defensive coordinator Scotty Hazelton is seeing his secondary get carved up. Well, gee, if only our head coach was also a secondary guy as well. Oh, wait a minute. He actually has taken the secondary under his wing in the offseason. So, yeah, I think it might be a little fair to question just how good of a secondary and X's and O's coach he is. And look, I get there's also the other side of the argument too, where it's like, hey, the defense is actually schematically correct. It's just that we don't have the guys that can run it. Okay, but the other side's talking now, like, okay, isn't that on the coaches though to scheme something up that matches the personnel you have? After this large sample size from last year, shouldn't you realize that, hey, maybe this isn't necessarily working. Maybe we dumb things down a little bit and make something work. But no, we're too far pot committed now. Like, we're just going for it and hoping that we can learn something along the way. So no, the defense has been looking abject disaster. And when it's this bad for this long, you do have to look at the CEO. I know everyone wants to talk about the defensive coordinator, but yeah, like, Mel Tucker's got to wear some of the blame too. And the offense, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the offensive line has just been not that great. And when your offensive line is not that great, it doesn't matter what you're dialing up on offense. Like, you're so handcuffed to what you could actually do. So it's been just, I'm a little more lenient to give the offense some leash here. So yeah, but I mean, you got to question it when you're 2-4 and your last 4 games have all been double-digit losses. So it's only fair to question how he is as an in-game coach.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where the numbers kind of back up the results too. I mean, Michigan State, not to pile on, is last in the Big Ten in defensive metrics across the board almost, which is weird because, again, when I think of Michigan State, I know it's different because there's a different coach, different culture, but that's not how I remember Michigan State, and that's not how I think Michigan State needs to play.
Totally.
Jump to the offense here. I want to talk Clayton Thorson a little bit, who was, I thought, coming into the year, one of the better Big Ten quarterbacks. I still think talent-wise, he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in the Big Ten. But how much of last year was being able to play off Kenneth Walker, play action off Kenneth Walker?
A lot of it, which is what we're learning right now, he was dynamite off the play action, no question about it. And look, I was the conductor of the Peyton Thorne train, which, wow, I got to look at myself in the mirror now, because 2 years ago I was on the Graham Mertz train, went off the rails this offseason. Hey, everyone relax. Peyton Thorne's great. It's all going to be okay. And here we are again, going off the same tracks we just went off with Mertz last season. So, besides me being a kiss of death, The offensive line, look, it all goes back to that, I think. Hasn't necessarily given him the most confidence that he can drop back in the pocket most games. And it really happened early in the season, too, like even against Western, sometimes against Akron, Washington, too, where he was scampering out of the pocket. And I don't think he has a lot of faith in the pocket. Now, is that to say that, he's completely absolved from all of his issues? Like, no. His decision-making has been suspect as well this year as well, which is something I thought he did great last year. Whenever he took a risk, it was always calculated. He never threw Michigan State in a bad spot. This year's a little different, though. Like, he has taken risk, like right off the top. Look, last week's game against Ohio State, first drive of the game. Let's just bomb one into triple coverage really quick. Let's just see how that works.
Well,
unfortunately, it worked out the way that everyone thought it would work out, and Ohio State picked the ball off. It's like, that is not a throw he would make last season, I think. So, look, is it a pressure mounting on him? He knows that the season's weight is on his shoulders. Maybe. Is it the offensive line is making him do things that he really isn't comfortable doing? Maybe. So that's a long way of me saying that we've also lost value in the Peyton Thorne stock from last season as well. And now we got a good faction of the fan base that are rooting for Noah Kim, our backup quarterback, to come into the game here. So we'll see if that happens in the second half.
Yeah, I would take on here with Thorne, who, again, I think he's a very talented quarterback. We've literally seen it on the field. It comes down a lot of times to ecosystem, right? Which we talked about when you said recruiting. Everything kind of matters. With the quarterback, everything kind of matters, right? And if you lose, your offensive line isn't as good. It's not as cohesive. And now you're in bigger holes. You feel more pressure to score quickly. Your security blanket with Kenneth Walker's gone. You can't play action as effectively. Like, it all matters, and the quarterback's the biggest part of the ecosystem, but he's just still a part. Let's maybe talk game predictions here. I think we've kind of wallowed in our
vibes are high right now. Yeah, we're both feeling great leaving this conversation. This is awesome.
Everything's okay.
Well, hey, you know what? We don't sugarcoat anything. We can say that. We don't sugarcoat things, and we laugh to keep from crying too, Ryan. We're good at that as well.
And basketball starts soon. This isn't a basketball show, but right, it's coming.
Close.
We're
almost there. Yep.
All right, let's do some predictions. We both kind of talked about the spread of 7. We both took Michigan State to cover. Did you have Michigan State covering and winning, or losing a close game? No. Okay.
No, I'm going to have them losing a close game here. And look, what could maybe give State fans a glimmer of hope is that we might have Jacob Slade coming back, who is that run-clogging defensive tackle. And look, I know it's just one guy, but I think he really is that big of a name. Like, we're talking potential first-team All-Big Ten if he didn't get hurt earlier this year. So he can maybe mitigate the damage the Badgers can do on the ground. However, look, we're not too far removed from watching Tanner Morgan look like the second coming of Steve Young at Spartan Stadium. Like, he looked elite against our secondary. I think Graham Mertz is going to have an issue passing against Michigan State. It pains me to hear that you guys are jazzing it up here with the exotic passing plays here. You're not just going run, pass. So with that said, I like Graham Mertz. I don't like Michigan State secondary, so give me Wisconsin 24 points and Michigan State 19. Something weird. Just something really strange for us on a nice homecoming Saturday here. So that's what I got.
So that gets you under the 47. So you're taking the under as well. Yeah,
it's a little under the 47. Yep.
It's so funny, by the way, when we're talking and you're like, it's the exotic passing stuff, and I'm like, we passed on first down.
That's exotic to me. Yep.
Right.
I lived through the Dave Warner era at Michigan State, where that's exotic to me.
Right.
That's right.
For me too. I'm like, we threw a receiver screen. Did y'all see that? Right. I was like texting my Badger fans, like, that's legal, right? That wasn't a handoff. Is it good?
This is nuts.
So no, I'm right there. Listen, I think there's actually a lot for as chaotic on the outside as a coaching turnover, firing an established coach looks. I actually think the Badgers are in about as good a spot as you can be with that, because Jim Leonhard is a Wisconsin guy. He's very respected, and he's been being groomed for that role unofficially. Yep. So it's not as chaotic as it appears, to be honest. And frankly, I think there's some new coach energy. I think Paul Chryst just got a little long in the tooth, and he wanted to play football like it was 1992. And he's a super good guy. This is not a dancing on Paul Chryst grave thing. The dude won 70% of his games and got fired, which is
good coach for a while.
Coach.
Yeah.
Good. Not a great coach in 2021. So I actually think, or 2022, I guess it's 2022 now.
Same difference.
Really same difference. I actually think there's some good mojo riding with the Badgers, despite what people on the outside kind of look as a chaotic situation. So I'm going to take the Badgers to win. I do think a roadie is always tough in the Big Ten, especially starting later. The crowd's going to be more jazzed up. It's a big moment for Michigan State.
Yeah.
I have like a 24-20 type game, so I'm right under the 47. But I do think the Badgers win. Michigan State covers, and it's probably not going to be the prettiest game, which should shock nobody listening to either of these shows.
Right. But I will eat up every snap of this slop that we were about to see on Saturday. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time regardless. Everyone, hey, let's stay hydrated. Let's try to mix in a water on Saturday too.
Just get it in early.
Yeah, get it in. Yeah, just have a cup of water with your breakfast, and you're good to go the rest of the day. I think that's sound medical advice for our fans. So
you get the hydration reserve in, and then you're good really for the rest of the day. And you're going to probably need a little bit of help to get through this game potentially.
Look at that. Bang. That's Locked On Badgers. This is Locked On Spartans. And now Locked On Medical Advice. We have done it. We have guided people successfully, hopefully, to Saturday. Hey, regardless, one team's going to win, and one of us is going to have a great weekend. But regardless of the outcome, Ryan, hope you have a great weekend. Just not like an outstanding one from like 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah,
it was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it. This was a good crossover. This is, I think, the favorite one I've done so far.
You know what? I'll whisper it because I don't want to, upset anyone. Me too. Me too. Me too. This is a good time. So there we go. Hey, a combined. Hold on. Let me do the Spartan math here. A combined 5-7 on the season, but you know what? That's as fun as it could possibly get for a crossover episode. That's Ryan Herrings, Locked On Badgers, Matt Sheehan, Locked On Spartans. Go enjoy the rest of your week, you beautiful people. Love you all. Let's go.
Let's go.